Good day, fellow modelers. This is video 5 in the series GMAX for the beginning modeler. Our objective today is manipulation of the primitives objects that we've created in the previous 2 videos, converting them to an editable state so that we can actually use them to build aircraft. Hi, my name is Milton Shoup, and we're at it again. So in the earlier video we created these 5 standard primitives, and basically all you can do with them is change the size and the shape and their location, but not much more. In order to make them fully editable, we have to use the modifier panel. As you'll see at the top here, if I select the box, for example, and go to modify, then I have some options available to me. If I right click on the box, I can convert to editable mesh, patch, poly, or brush. Basically most of our work will be done in editable poly, although there are many things we'll do in editable mesh, certain functions anyhow. But for simplicity, we use editable poly. It's a little less work and overhead. But some tools are only available in editable mesh. Sometimes we switch over, use those tools, and switch back. So before we do that, I want to do one thing here, and that's create some length and width and height segments in this box. Let's do 3. We're going to have to show these, so let's go up to right click on the user viewport and edged faces. There I have 3 segments. I'll create 3 width segments, and I want to create 2 height segments. So now we can see, let's zoom in on that with the E key. Okay, not sure why it's not doing that. It's fussing at me for some reason. Okay, now that we've got some segments here and some things to play with, we will come over here and we're going to create or convert this standard primitive box to an editable object. We're going to do that by converting to editable poly. Now what just happened here? First of all, let me get rid of these brackets. And I'm going to do that on all viewports, so we don't have to mess with it anymore. All viewports. Uncheck that and just check that. Okay, and then toggle back to the full screen. When you convert to an editable object, it allows you to change everything you see here and then some. If I select vertice as a sub-object, just to be clear, when this is not highlighted, we're addressing the object. When we click on either of these sub-objects, vertice, edge, border, polygon, or element, those are called sub-object levels. So in other words, we're able to modify the components of the overall object. Alright, so as you can see, these blue dots here are called vertices. And vertices you can do a lot of things with, one at a time or a multitude of things. You can move them on any axis, really mess up what's going on here. We'll undo that all the way back. Or you can select edges, one edge or multiple edges, and you can actually move edges simply by using the selected move tool. See how you can manage that. Or you can select 2 edges there and really distort things. It looks kind of funny when you're just playing around with it, but that's the way it works. If you select a poly, you can move that poly and it pulls the adjacent polys with it, so it gives you a different look to the object. And all these things are important because it essentially puts total control of the characteristics of this object in your hand, and there's lots of ways to change things. For example, on a vertice, you can do things like chamfer. Usually you don't think about chamfering vertices, but it has some interesting effects that you'll probably put to use. Oops, sorry, I lost my vertice, or my chamfer function. There we go. Notice how it kind of cuts the corner off of that. So that's a neat effect. The other thing you can do is chamfer lines. Let's go check edges, if you will. So let's select the edge here. And we're going to do a chamfer on that edge, and guess what happens? Do it again. You tend to round that corner. So you can begin to see how you can modify the geometry using various tools and various sub-objects of the object to manipulate what was once a primitive box object. So, and there's interesting things you can do, like bevel, or whoops, went too far with that, or extrude. This is just clicking on selecting a poly and grabbing it and pushing or pulling to give you a different effect. Alrighty, so just some examples of what can be done once you get into an editable poly mode. So you can see the potential here to do practically anything and change things in ways you just never thought you could do, and how easy it is to do. It's kind of surprising. Okay, let's go to top view and pick up the torus here. And if we think of this maybe as a tire, let's convert it to editable poly. And just look at some of the things you can do here. You can scale that down if you'd like. It doesn't matter on the scale which way you go with it. So you can change it into things other than what it may have been intended for. You want a little bit of rounded surface there, or you could do the same thing really if you selected the polys. Yeah, let's go back to scale. This is just a push-pull operation on the mouse. Okay. The other thing you could do is use the non-uniform scale to widen or narrow that set of polys I've selected here. So you can see how you can go from maybe an old style truck tire to a passenger tire maybe. So those are just some things you can do. And let's see, I can't show you a border yet, but so those are just other things, other ways to manipulate. So if you wanted to take the sphere and actually do something with a half a sphere, interesting how you say that word. Okay, let's get into editable poly here, or vertex sub-object mode. Another thing I should point out, there's an ignore backfacing here, and if that is on and I selected these vertices, you might want to notice that, oops, good grief, I'm at the top, that's why I only selected half of what I thought I was looking at. So you have to be aware that that's a tool that can go against you or for you. I think I'm on top. Okay, I'm on top. So if you want to select all of them, you got to make sure ignore backfacing isn't checked. Otherwise, it's only going to select what you can see. So do that and delete those vertices. Now I have a half of a sphere that I could use for other things. And of course, because I deleted those off, you notice there's nothing down here. If you wanted that sealed in, you could click on border, which is this symbol right here, and select that edge, and you see it's highlighted. And then come down here and use the cap feature. And boom, that's filled in. So now you've got kind of an igloo without a door. But doors are easy enough to do. That's just another way of using that. And see, back to here. If we wanted to, let's go to front then. Wanted to do something really weird. Let's get rid of this grid. Something really weird. Something we'll use many times. An operation called Boolean. And we're going to show you just how to do a Boolean. At least one way to do it. There's lots of ways to do Booleans, but lots of features and functions of the command, I should say. We're going to, whoops, I first have to convert that particular object to, well, I did convert it, okay. Alright, it's making a fool out of me here. Oh, I'm in the wrong place. Compound objects. That's where I want to be. Okay, we're going to select a box. And then we're in compound objects. What I want to do is a Boolean operation. What that does is allow you to affect one object with another object. In this particular operation, I want to try to put the impression of this tire or torus in the side of this box. Let's see if I can do that successfully. Wow. Daggum, I did. Isn't that weird? Weird and interesting. The power of Gmax. So anyhow, let's back off of that. Get that out of the way. And you can do the same thing, of course, with sliding this bad boy over there. It's just a way, and the Boolean operations is what we use to cut flaps in the wings, cut ailerons in the wings, cut rudder into the vertical tail, that kind of thing. So that's the reason I'm showing it to you here. So we're going to select this. We're going to do another Boolean. We're going to pick operand B. And there we did. We just kind of got a little nice little circular shape there that we had indented into the box. So lots of ways to use these tools, and the important thing is get rid of this, convert it back to poly. And same thing with cylinders. Lots of ways to, once you get into an editable mode, there's so many things you can do, and obviously you can, because you see aircraft being created by people just using these simple tools. So then it's a matter of how to apply the tools, and we're going to get into that very shortly. So just wanted to show you that how simple it is to get these objects ready to go to work, and that's what we're fixing to do. So go back to your work and convert your objects to an editable status, as I showed, and play with it a little bit, explore, do what you can. You can't hurt anything, and have a little fun with it and see what you can do. And now I think we're ready finally to get to the point of setting up our 3 views to get an aircraft started, because you've been exposed to all the basic tools necessary to create an aircraft. So I'm excited and I'm anxious to get started now that we've gotten through the basic introduction here. So thank you very much, and have any comments, post them down below. And I appreciate you being here, and I'm hoping that these tutorials are of some use to you. Thanks a bunch.